If you look at the name of the brochure you've got up here, the title of the brochure is "Seeds Are Not Scary, but Sometimes They Do Have a Mind of Their Own." Now, just to mention that I work in the greenhouse out here. Prior to that, Mary, my wife, and I ran a greenhouse ourselves. And one year, just for the heck of it, like for advertising purposes, we counted out about how many plants we had in the greenhouse. And we came up with just shy of 500,000 plants. Okay. Now, why do I bring that up? The reason I bring that up is this. When you can go to a greenhouse that has 500,000 plants, or maybe more, why do you want to start your own seeds at home? Somebody give me an idea. Why do you want to start your own seeds? Cheaper? Economics, yes. You can save some money if you're starting seeds at home.
It's fun, exciting to see something young as well.
Yep, it's fun. It's fun. It gives you a sense of self-satisfaction. In fact, IKEA, we're all familiar with the furniture maker IKEA, has just come out, it's not available in the United States yet, but it's just come out with an indoor hydroponic setup that you can start your seeds, has the grow lights, has the temperature monitors, everything. You can grow your own plants right indoors. So it has a Swedish name I can't pronounce quite yet, but it is coming to the States. Okay, so economics, it's fun. Is there any other reason?
You're committed to it.
Okay, committed, yeah.
Get the variety that you want.
Yeah.
There's another big one. You know, take that greenhouse, like I said, that we grow 500,000 plants. Sometimes it's very difficult for a greenhouse to grow the 4 or 6 plants of a variety that's not real popular that you can't find. So by growing your own, if you've got a variety that you just are in love with, by starting your own seeds, you can get that particular variety. Whereas if that greenhouse, think of all the plants that are scattered out in that entire greenhouse, have these packs of 4, 6, or 8, or 10 plants, you kind of get lost, to be real honest with you. So yes, economics, one thing, fun, another thing, and get the varieties you want. On your sheet, I've got listed, some of you may be very, very experienced people at starting seeds. Some may be novices. What I've done here is list a few of the common seeds that are a little bit easier to grow. They're easier to grow for a couple reasons. Number one, you don't have to live with them as long. Okay? Growing them, you start them, you grow them out for a little while, and then you go outside. Number two, the seed size. If you look at these, you know the tomato seeds, you know about what size they are. Marigold seeds are pretty good. Cabbage, broccoli, cole crops, they're pretty good size. Now to contrast that with the seeds that I have listed down below, the more advanced ones. First one on the list is begonias. We'll pass this around, but begonia seed, you can't really see it in here in the camera, will not pick it up. There's 2 million seeds per ounce. Okay. Imagine the average home gardener trying to sprinkle out the seeds. It's almost impossible, it really is. Okay, 2 million seeds per ounce. By contrast, petunia seeds, which is a very common plant, there's about 300,000 seeds per ounce in petunia seeds. They're bigger, they're easier to handle, but they're still somewhat of a challenge. Now, just to point a note on petunia seeds, I said there's 300,000 seeds per ounce, that's approximately. Your tomatoes maybe have 10,000 seeds per ounce. But with the petunia seeds, some of that seed is more valuable than gold. Some of that petunia seed sells upwards of over $6,000 an ounce wholesale. So when you're paying $10 for 5 seeds on some of these newer varieties, you kind of understand why. Okay. So the bigger seeds, number one, are easier to work with. Not quite the investment you're going to have. And if you're just starting out, that's the way I would do it. Also, if you can, new seeds are easier to grow than old seeds. You can save old seeds, that's not an issue, but new seeds generally germinate better than old seeds. And there's something else to consider. Inside that seed is a little embryo, small plant just waiting to grow. Not only does that seed need to germinate, but that seedling needs to be vigorous. It has to grow and develop into a very healthy plant. Now both the germination and the vigor decline over a period of years, depending on how things are stored. Realistically, you can store seed, most seed, 2 to 3 years and you'll be okay. After that, it gets a little sort of shaky. And after that, they may germinate. It may germinate, but the vigor will go down. How many of you have started seeds, and you might have 10 seeds that are just busting from the sky, and you got these 2 or 3, for lack of a better word, grubs. That's where your vigor declines. Okay? So you are looking not only for germination, you're looking for vigor in your seeds. And that's very, very important. Now, I'm going to try to show you this. You can come up afterwards and see it if you want. All seeds are not created equal. In here is something called mimosa, or sensitive plant. It's a plant where you touch it and the leaves fold up. Fun plant to have. Okay. This package right here was commercially purchased seed. It was seeded on February 24th, a while ago. I have 3 plants coming out of this whole seed. This whole thing was full of mimosa seed. I have 3 plants. This one, right here, which you can look at again a little bit later on, was seeded on March 9th, not too long ago. This was seed that we collected off of our own plant, not commercially produced seed, seed we collected off of our own plant. I counted before I brought them over here. I've got over 50 seedlings growing in this particular plot right here. So all seed is not created equal, okay? And just because it's commercially produced does not necessarily mean it's going to be better than what you can sometimes get on your own.
Will you get work on that where you have 3? Will you think some of those others will germinate, or is it a lost cause?
The mimosa seed will take up to 30 days to germinate. So yes, we will. Will I ever get 50? I doubt it. Okay. But yes, and patience is another key to this thing. You have to be more patient than the seed is sometimes, Okay, how do you germinate seeds? Well, first off, most seeds like a very uniform temperature. I'm going to say most, not necessarily all, but most of them like a very uniform temperature, which means they don't like big fluctuations. Most seed like a temperature of someplace between 70 and 75 degrees to germinate. Okay? There are a few that like it a little higher and a few that like it a little lower, but if you stick in that 70, 75 degree range, you're doing good. Also, as we said, they like it constant. Okay? And it's important to remember that your soil temperature is usually about 5 degrees cooler than your room temperature. So if you've got your house set at 70 degrees, and that's the only source of heat you get in these seedlings, your soil temperature is going to be what? 65. That's going to be below the threshold of many seeds of getting good germination on many seeds. So a good way of doing this, if you can get a little soil thermometer, just stick it in. It'll tell you a lot. It's surprising what your soil temperature will be. Okay? Some seeds, and you have to read the seed packet for this, like to be covered. They like to germinate in the dark. Peppers, tomatoes, a lot of those like to be covered. Some seeds germinate better with light. Petunias, begonias, if you want to be so brave to try those, germinate, they like light. In fact, some of the commercial greenhouses are actually treating their seeds with a red LED light to increase germination. They're playing with that. So a majority of the easy to grow seeds here, you cover. But again, read the seed packet. It will tell you a wealth of information. Okay. What do you need to germinate? What seeds do you need? First off, you recognize this? used to sell potting soil back in the days. We'd have a husband and a wife come in the greenhouse, and she'd say, I want to get some potting soil. And the husband, almost invariably, would say, if he's a farmer, say, I've got 4/4 of the best farmland in the Red River Valley. Why do you need to buy dirt? Okay. Imagine you are a seed trying to establish roots and trying to do it in something like this. When you're germinating, you need a sterile soil mixture. Commercially available. This is no peat or no soil in it at all. It's primarily peat. There's some vermiculite. Some of them have a very small starter fertilizer charge in it. Now, I stick that up here. Yep. You can kind of see how fine that is. This is the soil the germination mix I would use for any of the smaller seeds that you're working with. Okay. Very small, very fine. The seed gets contact with the soil in here. The moisture is there. Good conditions. Some of the bigger seeds, like the peppers, the tomatoes, you can use something that's a little coarser. Okay, something like this. Okay. Something like this is what it amounts to. You can use something that's a little bit coarser here and get very good success rates with it. After the seeds germinate, it's time to transplant them. This particular variety, or this particular mixture, you could transplant into this if you wish to, or you can make your own soil mix or mix something like this with soil. If you do use soil in your mixture when you transplant into it, it's a good idea to sterilize soil. You can do that in the oven at 180 degrees for about a half hour. Make sure the soil temperature needs to be 180 degrees for about a half hour. And then this will work as part of your soil blend, not the whole thing, but part of it. Okay. When we are seeding out in the greenhouse, we'll take this seed, or this fine mixture. This is what I like to use right here. And we will put it into something that looks like this. We'll mix the mixture nice and wet. We'll get a good, you don't want the moisture dripping out of it, but you want it fully wet, okay? We'll put it, make sure it's in here. We'll make nice, neat little rows. We'll pass these around. Nice, neat little rows so that you can seed right into the depressions. Okay? An old timer, when we were first getting started in greenhouse business, said, if you make them into the depressions, your seed's never going to dry out. This is what you do. Once you get it down in the depression, then if you want to, you can cover the seed, or you can leave it open, and you can grow it out from there. The seed's in there. You put it on your heat mat or wherever you're going to grow it on, and keep it at what temperature? Yep. Nice and even, uniform temperature, and then you just wait for it to sprout. You may have to water it. For instance, if your seed takes 30 days, like this mimosa seed takes, you may have to water it. And we don't use anything fancy. Depending on how big a seed we use, I use this spray bottle here. And how many of you recognize the sprinkle nozzles? That's what I water the seedlings with when they're germinating. It's the old sprinkler nozzles. And actually, you can still get it in the hardware stores here in town. If it's small seed, I'll use a Mr. bottle with it. Okay? So, after the seed germinates, sometimes that's the easy part. What do you do with it after that? It's time to... See, I've got this flat of seed right here. Can I leave it like that? You have to transplant it, right? Okay. Now, when you're transplanting this, a lot of times it gets put into small packs, such as that right there. When you're transplanting the seed, it's very important that you, and I'll try to do this so everybody can see it here. Do not go handling the seed by the stem. Okay. Priority number one rule, don't handle the seed by the stem. Why would that be, you think?
Crush the stem.
Yep. So I crush the stem. I just grab this and nothing shows up, the stem looks fine. Very tender. You can damage the vascular tissues inside the stem very, very easily. Okay. The damage may not show up for a week, 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you'll start getting little black spots along the stem. The black spot will expand, and your plant will drop over. Instead, the best way to handle these seedlings is by the leaves, or sometimes even by the root. Gently place these plants in your transplantable pack that you're going to put them into. Whether that be this right here, or you don't have to be fancy. I've seen egg cartons used. When I was doing a little research for this, somebody said you take toilet paper rolls, cut them in half, take the bottom, and you plant into here. Okay? There's a myriad of ways you can do this. I'm not going to say one or the other is right. But the main point we need to bring out here is that if you're seeding in a small container like this, you cannot leave them crowded together because number one, they will not develop well. Number two, this thick, this crowded is just an ideal place for disease to develop. Ideal place for disease to develop. After you have them transplanted, where are you going to put them? That's sometimes the hard part. On the notes here I said oftentimes germinating the seed is the easy part. What do you do with it afterwards? Well, if you're fortunate to have a greenhouse, you grow it in a greenhouse. If you're not fortunate to have a greenhouse, you can put it in under fluorescent lights. 1 4-foot shop light can grow quite a few plants. If you're going to do that, the bulbs are somewhat, you can buy grow light bulbs. A little spendy. They work fine, don't get me wrong. If you want to do that, that works great. You can achieve just about the same result by either mixing one warm fluorescent light and one cool light, or you can use 2 cool lights. Keep those fluorescent bulbs about 4 inches above the plant. Obviously, as the plant grows, what's that mean? You have to raise the lights, right? Okay. But 4 inches gives you about the right amount of light so that plant can conduct photosynthesis and grow. Okay? You keep on growing out. Now these plants, you've got them indoors. You've got them growing on your heat mat or wherever you got them growing. You got the light on them. Also, sometimes it's kind of nice to turn a fan on those plants. Get the air blowing through them for a couple reasons. Number one, plants like air movement, especially seedlings. It helps prevent disease. And also, that air movement will toughen up that stem a little bit. Okay? They've got a pretty soft life when they're growing something like this right here. Okay? You get some air movement on them, that'll help straighten that stem up. And it'll make your transplant outside much, much easier. Okay? Now, say it's the beginning of May, second week of May, whatever. It's time to put these plants outside. Can I take these plants right here and plant them in the garden? Why not? Like I said, even in the greenhouse, these plants have a pretty soft life. It's a good idea, if you can, get them used to the real world here a little bit. Take them outside, start maybe in the shade for a couple hours. Just get them outside, get used to the shade. Gradually increase that time frame so they're outside for half a day, maybe a full day. And depending on the weather, towards the end, leave them outside all day long and all night long. If they're shade plants, obviously you keep them in the shade, in patience, whatever. If they're sun plants, get them out in the sun. We've all seen what happens when a plant comes from the greenhouse or from your house, you're growing, you put it right out in the sun, the leaves will bleach right out and you'll lose those leaves. So this acclimation period, is very, very important. Okay? Very important. Now, right now, this was a plant. I'm going to walk up and down so everybody can take a look at it. This lettuce. About 3 or 4 different types of lettuce in here. This was seeded on February 9th. What I did is I took this container, put the seed in here, let it grow. Did not put it in heat tape, heat mat, or whatever. Just set it out on a nice warm bench greenhouse, and this is what you have. This is what you guys are going to be seeding to take home with you today. Okay? So I'm going to give you, we'll have the stuff coming over here shortly. We'll give you what's called a Jiffy 7. What it is, it's a peat pot that this plant can grow into. Okay? Now if you look at the peat pot, it's a pot full of peat, just solid peat, about this tall, about this big around. The lease has been good enough to go through it, has to punch a little hole on top of it so you don't have to get your fingers wet. Okay. We'll give you 2 seeds. We'll give you 2 seeds to plant into it. Now these seeds are what they call pelleted seeds. In other words, what they've done, in this pelleted seed, they put a coating around it so the seed's easier to handle, number 1. But number 2, inside each pellet, there's approximately 4, maybe 5 different seeds, different lettuce seeds in that pellet. So you have the potential, depending on germination, to have 8 to 10 different seeds coming up in here. You take it home, keep it at what temperature? Okay, grow it on, give it the sun that you need or fluorescent light that you need as it grows on. You can leave it in that plug for quite some time, or you can plant it in, I would suggest you plant it into a bigger pot. This works great on the deck or on the patio, if you live in an apartment, or wherever. You just go grab fresh greens for supper, or for lunch, or whatever. Okay? Now there is one thing I want you to be aware of as you're looking at these peat pots, these Jiffy 7s. If you do plant it outside or you do plant it in another container, you'll see a little netting that goes around the pot. And if you've seen peat pots also, you'll see the peat that goes around them. Okay. The netting, before you plant it out, kind of peel that back a little bit. Because sometimes, and peat pots also, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, that outside peat layer can act like a wick. And it will actually take the moisture from out here, it will suck it down the side of the peat pot or around the outside edge of the peat. It doesn't get into where the seed needs to be. So if you're transplanting outside peat pots outside in the garden, just peel that stuff back a little bit. Maybe they do break down, they do biodegrade, but I've never seen them do it quite as fast as what the commercials do. So just break it up a little bit. Okay? You ready to hand out seed? Maybe wait just a minute until you put them in until we get seed to everybody, please.
You're playing them.
That's that clean coating, that coating. That's what makes it that. Two. call people. That's, yeah.
Just had a question for you.
Tell you what,
Wait. She gave us some. We got one.
now you can take those two seeds, drop them in that little hole, and just kind of gently squeeze the top of that hole shut.
We don't put them in a variety of places. Just
Nope, drop them right in the same hole. Push them down, make sure they go down in the hole, so they're covered about maybe a quarter inch at the most. Then you just kind of squeeze that hole shut from the outside in. Nice and gentle. You don't have to pack anything together real hard. You're just nice and easy. And there you go. And now about the middle of May, you can all bring salad. Okay, questions?
Where can you go to buy a heat mat? Is there anything we're supposed to be looking at, or?
Well, heat mats are available by a number of commercial suppliers. But the other day after work, I went to the 3 hardware stores here in town, took a walk through all 3 of them. Between the 3 of them, they have whatever I talked about today. They have the heat mats, they have the Jiffy 7s, they have the seed starting trays, they have the seed starter, they have it all. So I would start there. They've got the fluorescent lights. That's where I would start. Yes?
If you use them Jiffy peat pots that are formed, maybe circle or square, or when you transplant them, you take the bottom out of it so the root can grow. Take it all away.
The nice thing about the Jiffy pots and these Jiffy 7s is they work great for plants that do not like to be transplanted very well. Squash, watermelon come to mind. Those are some plants that don't take transplanting very well. So they serve a real valuable purpose there. But yes, I would definitely maybe break the bottom out a little bit, and crack the sides somewhat into the seed. So yep, they work. You do need to use a seed starter or a soilless mix inside of them, or sterilized soil in the oil mix.
One thing about the peat pots, when you plant them into the garden, you have to make sure they get covered so that the peat doesn't take the moisture.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you can break it off, or you can cover them, whatever you want to do. But if you bury those pots deep, you have to be a little careful that the seedling that's inside of it, depending on what seedling you're planting, doesn't get down too deep also. So that's why sometimes I like to recommend you breaking off the sides. You've got a very good point. You got to get those sides down so the moisture can get into the plant.
What's the rule of thumb, or does it matter when you go to transplant, like you have them in the little seed starters there, and now let's say I have a geranium or something that's going to get fairly good size, can I go right to a 3-inch pot, or should I stay with the small ones and then go up to the next size?
Depends on how good you are at watering.
They're in a little confined greenhouse, so
Yeah.
they stay pretty
Here's,
close, but
here's what, and the reason I say that is this. We go directly with seed geraniums out here, we will go directly to a 3.5-inch pot. It saves that second step of transplant. The danger of doing that is that you've got a big container with a lot of soil in it that's moist and a small plant. And when I said it depends on how good you are at watering, I was very, very serious, because it's very easy to drown those plants by getting too much water in there. It can be done. I do it all the time. A number of places do it. But you just have to, like I said, you can't use your best judgment and water a little bit at a time. Don't soak everything down, because plants roots need air too, they just don't live on water. Yes?
Should you water it every day, or should you look at the topsoil and see if they need water?
Somebody told me once you just stick your finger in and see if it's dry. That's a very difficult question to answer because conditions change. For instance, out here yesterday it was cloudy. We didn't need to water anything. Today the sun's coming out and I have to water. It's just the conditions that they're in is what it amounts to. Plants like it moist. Depending on the plant you're at, the best suggestion I can give you is let that top dry down to a light brown or lighter color, then water. Every once in a while, I'll take our plants out in the greenhouse and I'll actually tip them upside down, pull the pot off and check the roots and see how deep the moisture is going and see what the roots look like. And that can give you a pretty good idea of how you water and how good a job you're doing watering. But as far as me telling you to water every day or every other day, that's just something I can't
When you get the seed to germinate, you try to keep it as wet as you can.
Moist, yeah, saturated. Yeah, I would, most of the time, if you got that in the seed flat, we've got something like this. I'll put a plastic cover or a humidity dome over something, something over top of it. Most of the time, once you get them wet, especially seeds that you cover, they're pretty good until they germinate. You very seldom have to do much water until they start germinating. Okay. If you go in for the small seeds, for instance, the begonia seed that sits right on top of the soil, then you need to use something like this Mr. Bottle, just to lightly mist things in. If you're going with that very, very fine small seed, be very careful not to 2 million seeds to the ounce, very tiny seed. It needs light to germinate. You don't want to wash that seed out into the soil starting media very much, or very much at all. You have, and I can't tell you for sure, lettuce. It's all varieties of lettuce. You will have, let me see if I got this. Contains up to 5 different green seeds. I can't tell you. It's a surprise. It tastes good. Any other questions? Yes?
How do you prevent damping?
That can be a real serious issue. Preventive fungicides go a long ways. Proper air movement, okay, very, very important. Make sure, sometimes that damping off, I swear it's in the seed. I do. Like I said, seeds have a mind of their own. I have seeded 2 flats. Well, I've seen numerous flats, let's put it that way. One, and I'll do 2 different lots of the same type of seed. One seed will have damping off like crazy and one won't. It's tough to say. But preventive fungicides, one that comes available, that's available on the market, TruBan, Banrock, those are 2 of them. TruBan is usually available in hardware stores. I don't know if these have it, I did not look for that. But like I said, air movement after the seeds get up, vital. That air movement does not only strengthen the stems, it really does help prevent diseases from setting in. Thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.
What size? Okay.
Yeah, it's what I usually do.
Okay.
And I don't even have a Master Gardener t-shirt. I do have from my previous county, I've got
I would do this
Denim
garden.
shirt, you know,
I would definitely use seed tray.
but it has right tongue, that's gardener. And then I've got a maroon polo shirt.